Research has shown that adult bias in the classroom has perpetuated gender stereotypes in STEM-based education. This starts as early as elementary school, where children get their introduction into STEM. When this perpetuation of gender stereotypes starts so early, it carries on into later years of the child's education and can either encourage or discourage a passion for STEM. According to a research study done by Maame-Yaa University in Australia, researchers discovered that adults provided less scientific information to girls during teaching. Girls were perceived as less academically competent in physics than boys. Gender stereotypic girls were rated less likely to enjoy science than boys, and perception of gender stereotypically affected adults' ratings and behavior. The fact that adult educators are biased in the genders they teach shows that this continued bias could diminish a girl's appreciation for science and STEM. In a study that explored how students viewed scientists, they also found that several factors contributed to how students saw scientists, especially such as how individuals are taught in their pre-college schooling. Essentially, the difficulties of getting women into STEM fields when they attend university are highlighted by their early school teachers translating subtle gender stereotyping into their teaching. Furthermore, this type of gender stereotyping negatively impacts females and minorities more than any other group.
This issue is important because with gender stereotypes being integrated into instructions, girls are less likely to want to pursue STEM fields, and this leads to a lack of inclusivity and diversity in the field. It's especially disheartening and tragic when girls show a talent for STEM but are turned off due to a teacher's bias. According to an article titled "Academic Procrastination in STEM: Interactive Effects of Stereotype Threat and Achievement Goals," after an investigation in academic outcomes, there are many consequences to the stereotype threat for women in STEM. This leads to a decreased academic performance, and according to the article, the shortage of women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, has emerged as an increasingly important career development issue in recent years. In 2010, the National Foundation of Science reported that only 21% of the bachelor's degrees in STEM were awarded to women in 2007. The perpetuation of gender stereotyping is dangerous, and subtle acts that can discourage women from pursuing what could be a blossoming passion and a talent that they should pursue. This is why this topic is so important to bring attention to in the field of STEM and early education educators. In Thailand, a study used a content analysis technique to examine textbooks and identify how gender role is perceived and portrayed in the curriculum. The second study used quantitative and cross-sectional research. The study concluded that the study uses a content analysis technique to examine textbooks and identify how gender role is perceived and portrayed in the curriculum. The second study uses quantitative and cross-sectional research. The conclusion found deep-seated values and beliefs on gender differences permeate the entire school system. At the end of the article, the writer Hamarant Tangswang asked a poignant question. So, do we grow up to be what we are taught? Since schools offer the best environment to foster gender equality, what is needed to create change? According to the syllabus for this course is a transdisciplinary introduction to the intersection of gender, race, and sexuality in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM. Furthermore, the emphasis of this course is focused on going beyond raising awareness towards identifying solutions to any issues raised, empowering students to overcome any perceived challenges to their success. This issue relates to the course because it looks at the precursor to gender stereotyping in adulthood by analyzing how the perpetuation of gender stereotypes in STEM-based education is a real problem that can trickle down to a lack of diversity in STEM by inadvertently dissuading women to pursue careers in STEM. It allows us to go beyond raising awareness. but to create solutions to remedy a growing issue. Now that we are enlightened and hope to enlighten others about this issue, we can work on stopping the perpetuation. Now that we are aware of this issue, one thing we could do to help decrease the perpetuation of stereotypes in STEM-based education is to look at the textbooks we are using. Scan for wording and writing that may indicate bias, especially in math and science textbooks, and math problems that perpetuate bias. In a study done specifically to assess the gender roles shown in textbooks, it was found that gender stereotypes are widespread in all school textbooks currently used in schools. What we found is that generally there is a frequency sufficiently increased portrayal of women in family roles, like caregivers. On the other hand, there is almost total portrayal of men in work outside the home. It is noted in all text analyzed. While this study was not directly focused on STEM stereotypes, this finding is something that still shows that textbooks tend to show women as people who need to stay in the home. This kind of imagery and language, as it was shown in images and in text, subconsciously tells young women and girls that they should not look for a career path that is specific and important enough that it would keep them away from eventually taking care of their families. If we change some of these images to show the men as caregivers and women going out to their jobs, it will help to prevent subconscious stereotypes from forming in the first place. Now, some people are going to complain about these changes because they don't want to give kids the freedom to fully choose their futures. In Michael Kimmel's TED Talk about gender equality, he discusses how the happiest countries are the most gender equal and how men in general do now want to be more a part of their children's lives. Of course they would be more happy when they get to relate to the people they care about, how they choose, without being restrained by their gender. Men should be free to go be teachers and caregivers, and women should be free to join STEM fields without having that little subconscious voice in the back of their mind saying they can't because all their learning material showed them that was true.
However, that can only be the first step. People and children are already exposed to different imagery all around their lives. Children's toys that increase their interest in subjects like engineering and science are already starting to change the marketing, not just to focus on boys, but girls as well. These are the kinds of changes that need to be reflected in schools. These kinds of changes do not deter boys from wanting to go into these fields, but promote girls' interest in these fields. It is important that through the use of toys and fun activities that young girls can learn about STEM. In recent years, we have seen an increasing number of STEM-based toys come to the market, with some branding themselves specifically for girls. These toys are matching the traditional girl toy concepts with cool STEM-based activities. Companies like JewelBots coming out with cute bracelets that girls can program to do different things. There are companies like Ruminate, who took the idea of the conventional dollhouse and made it into a fun learning toy targeted specifically for girls so they can learn about circuits, building, and motors. Companies like this have been created out of necessity to bring a slow change to the toy industry that will hopefully result in a change to the STEM-based fields. Toys are an important part of changing education inside and outside of the classroom. Along with encouraging education outside of the classroom, it is equally important for teachers to foster a growth mindset, especially for girls when it comes to STEM. In a study conducted by Stanford University, it was shown that brief targeted interventions to show students that intelligence is not fixed have a positive impact on children's performance in core classes like math and science. In order to foster a growth mindset in young girls, educators should be analyzing their students, especially girls, and having these interventions to ensure that their students are staying on the right path. Educators have such an impact on children and how they view learning. So, the intervening in a child's education could mean the difference between them believing in themselves and their abilities in a STEM-based field and them deciding not to pursue a career in such a field. These 3 solutions are all just ways to start the change to encourage more women to have a positive experience while learning in STEM-based classrooms. These solutions, if implemented, will help create and encourage women to pursue STEM jobs. Although they are not the only things that have to be done, as a society, it will take time for mindsets to change and for women in STEM to be the norm. In the meantime, we just have to be aware of everything we expose our children to, whether it be books, toys, or even a fixed mindset.